Hendrik Van Loan Smith once said, cooperation, collaboration, and coordination are together more powerful than competition. Keep this in mind as we discuss today the recent summit between Iran, Russia, and Turkey, and what does it mean for the geopolitical, global landscape, and energy. My name is Dr. David Waralu.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict.
Vladimir Putin arrived in Tehran for a three-way summit with his Turkish counterpart and the Iranian Supreme Leader.
It seems like West Asia is the place to be. Last week, US President Joe Biden dropped in. This week, Russian President.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin has traveled to Iran. This is only his second trip abroad since the conflict began.
What are the three leaders going to be discussing?
Huge deals between Iran and Russia. Wonder what that means to the economy.
Indeed, they signed the memorandum of understanding, and we will break it down for you at the whiteboard when I get up there. But yeah, indeed, Ross, because all of a sudden we're seeing this move from Russia to coordinate its efforts with Iran. And given what's going on around the world on a global stage, we can just see the writing on the wall.
Well, we've recently seen President Biden visit the Middle East, and somehow he did not get more petroleum to us.
No, I did not. As a matter of fact, he asked most of the Gulf states in the meeting they had, the president had with the Gulf states representatives, and all of them said no. Except Saudi Arabia agreed. But guess what? They agreed to increase production 13 million barrels in 2027. Which was literally, it's a slap in the face, basically.
Well, that's certainly not going to impact what I pay when I fill up my car today.
Exactly, Russ. And this is the importance of understanding what this summit, the Russia, Iran, and Turkey summit, what does it mean when it comes down to the global energy? Because the deal that Iran and Russia signed pertained to the energy sector more than anything else. And personally, as a geopolitical analyst, it tells me where things are headed. And this is what we're going to be breaking down for you at the whiteboard. There is another argument that's been discussed whether Russia and Iran can forge some military cooperation, alliance, whatever you want to call it. I am not surprised. I argued this a couple of years ago. It will be just a matter of time. At that time, of course, when I wrote about it, I was dismissed for that in the sense of, oh no, it can't be.
Well, guess what?
Today, they just announced that there is a possibility that Russia might have a presence in the waters near Iran, in the Gulf.
You know, as you clearly state the trend from 2018 in your book, Volatile State, Iran in the Nuclear Age, let me do a small quote from the book. While it's no secret that Russia maintains economic and military ties with Iran, its objective is long-term. In my opinion, that objective is for Russia to establish a naval base in Iran in a similar arrangement to that the United States has in Bahrain.
Indeed, yeah, I'm not surprised, Ross. And I won't even be surprised that even China down the road will have some similar presence in the waters there. Because all this, just for you to understand where these dynamics and why they're happening, all this has to do with the Caspian Sea energy oil. Yeah, because that's where the energy is going to be coming from. That's where Russia is going to play a major role. And given where oil prices are, I am sure if you happen to be an American watching this video, I'm sure you are aware of the prices at the gas pump. And even as Ross mentioned, the president went over to the Middle East, hoping is going to convince the Middle Eastern head of states or the Gulf states, that is, to produce more oil. Yeah, they flat out said.
Yeah, resounding no.
No.
And you said before, it's really a slap in the face.
It is culturally speaking. That's usually, it's very cultural. Knowing a little bit about the culture there, it's usually not good. But also it tells me something else about the U.S. leadership global one that is,
It's sinking.
Yeah, it's winding
Yep.
down. So let me get to the whiteboard, and I am gonna break down what it all means. Well, like Ras and I were talking earlier, the idea of this summit between Iran, Russia, and Turkey has a geopolitical significance to it, But what I am going to break down for you is the memorandum of understanding between Iran and Russia, especially in the energy sector. So basically what it was is that Iran and Russia signed a memorandum of understanding for about $40 billion into the energy sector. Because here is what you need to know and remember as you sort of trying to put this within a global context. Iran and Russia are considered among the top oil producers. But also Iran and Russia are now under US sanctions. So you can just see why their sort of economic aspirations will converge together towards one objective, is to ensure that they do still have a say on what's going on the global energy market. And they do. Look no further than what's going on right now in Europe, that the European Union decided to lift some of the sanctions on Russia. Why? Because they realize they are hurting economically speaking. And that is the reason why this memorandum of understanding will have a far longer outreach to it. Mind you that Iran by itself is thinking in terms of investing $160 billion within the next 7 to 8 years into the energy sector. Of course, this memorandum of understanding didn't happen in a vacuum, because China had also signed a deal previously with Iran of about $25 billion. So you can just see. Now the three countries, China, Iran, and Russia, but the three countries are now joining together into trying to form some sort of an alliance, if you will, to move forward economically, but also militarily. It is expected that the three countries, China, Iran, and Russia, will conduct joint military exercises in the Gulf, but also in Latin America, in Venezuela, in the next few days. As I always say, look for where the trend is headed. And this is a clear indication. I am not surprised. I wrote a book about all this a couple of years ago, and I even predicted back then that Russia and Iran might enter into an agreement regarding the presence of some sort of Russian naval assets or military, whatever you want to call it, near the Iranian soil. But there is another aspect to all this, which has to do with the Caspian oil reserves. There is something called the International North-South Transit Corridor, which basically will be a route that goes through Iran, Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Russia, of course. Those are the key countries that this kind of corridor is going to go through, a freight that's going to go on a road and by ship. So you can just see the importance of why Russia will go ahead and sign a memorandum of understanding with Iran. It's a strategic move, thinking in the long term, because Russia, given its oil reserves and gas and so forth, will have more say into the energy market. And once again, look no further what's going on in Europe and how the European economy is suffering. Look no further than what we have here in the United States with energy prices at the gas pump are so high. So this is why I want you to put this within the context of global energy and global geopolitical landscape. This TNSTC, the International North-South Transit Corridor, it's about 7,200 kilometers. And that's basically a route for the movements of energy, knowing that Caspian area, or the Caspian Sea that is, has a lot of oil reserves beneath the ground there. This is why I wanted to share this with you, to provide you an insight into what it all means and how that's going to impact your energy consumption moving forward.
You know, as you so clearly pointed out on the whiteboard, This alliance between Iran, a major oil producer, and Russia, another major oil producer, necessarily is going to impact the world economy in terms of energy.
Yeah, indeed, Ross. You're absolutely correct, because American people are still dealing with the high energy prices that is impacting their economies, they're impacting their daily lives, because it's just very hard for them to manage.
And as we've said over and over again, this is driving any number of Americans into dramatically lower standard of living. And more people are entering the realm of poverty. This is no laughing matter at all. So this tells you how important this issue between Russia and Iran really is.
Exactly. And this is why we're going to have to now move beyond just the idea of staying informed to now you have to prepare yourself for what lies ahead. And this is why our new motto, like we always used to end our videos with, stay informed, we no longer say that. Now we're going to be saying, as always, prepare yourself for the changing world order.